welcome to the award-winning Ed Brown Show. Okay, you know, we've been talking about domestic violence, we've talked about political. There's so many things that are happening now that people are sitting there at home don't realize. An election is coming up, and just because the president is not running, most of you are not even participating. You're not going to the meetings, you're not going to the hearings, not doing any of those things, but you complain. But that's why you have gerrymandering of the district. You have individuals in there 20, 30, or some of them approaching 40 years. That's because you're not doing your homework. You have to do your homework in voting. When I say that, is anyone running? Ask them one question and see how they take it. Do you believe in term limitation? Once you get that answer, then you know what you got. If this is the guy that's trying to make this a career, or is he trying to make it something that people will be proud of in his during his term? But anyway, we have here Dr. Dula. He's one of our prominent senators. Have been working in Prince George County for a long period, and know my buddy Dr. Williams and all. Yes. But he brought another young lady. We were talking about domestic violence and things of that nature, and that's Nina Patterson.
Yes.
And she's the founder. I was saying of the Source of Power.
Yes.
Now that's another volunteer organization, right? You're depending on funds from the people, and in order to get those funds, you got to get in the political system.
Absolutely.
If you don't get in the political system, then you get the crumbs. That's the way it works, right. And this is the way your political system works. I've been in the political system here 30-some years. I've been through the most important thing, and that's communication. I've had 2 newspapers, 2 magazines, and 3 shows. And to me, this is what the problem is, the communication. You're not communicating with the individuals that are running for these offices. Once you communicate with them, let them know that you're going to be knocking at their door every other day until you get something done. Okay, Dr. Dula,
Yes,
just tell you had a little experience around Prince George County. What is your synopsis of the involvement of the political system with the nonprofit organization?
Yes, thank you for asking that question, because it's one that comes up quite often, because we see a lot of funds coming into the county from state funding, from federal funding, but we don't see a lot of it disseminated to the nonprofits holistically across the board. We would like to see more funding, first of all, be granted to nonprofits to handle some of the social issues that's taking place inside our county. And we would like for there to be fair and equitable distribution of such funding. Because when you just earmark funds for your own, the government, thinking they can handle all things, it just doesn't work that way. Or if you pick and choose the same people all the time expecting the better results, well, it doesn't happen that way either. The nonprofit community, as Obama said, is the tool that you have to go to be able to get things done in a society. And I'd just like to see us step up to the plate in a greater way right here in Prince George's County.
Well, you know, that's the problem, not just in Prince George, that's the problem all over the United States. That's why we have a problem at the top right now with the president, because people did not do their homework.
That's right.
And in order to do your homework begins with you analyzing every individual that's running, not just for president. If he's running for dog catcher, civic association,
That's right.
or whatever,
That's right.
is that you don't depend on Aunt Mary and Uncle John, say, well, he's a good guy. He passed out, like President did Puerto Rico. He passed out paper towels, you know, when he goes to visit disaster area like that. That type of individual. That's not what you want.
No.
And if people had done their homework, they wouldn't have the problems that they have now. And they have inner problems, inner political problems.
You're
It's not
exactly
just
right.
the opposition. It's not just the opposition that's criticizing. It's some of their own buddies.
Right. You know, I'm also president of the Democratic Club in South County here in Prince George's. And one of the things that we have been done, we have grown from like 3 members up to over 100 members in less than 2 years. And we're continuing to grow every day. And we continuously tell people that in 2018, you have an election year coming up. And we have to answer those right questions. Just like you said, we have to ask them, what do you think about term limits? We have to ask them, what do you think about grandfathering taxes for seniors who are living on fixed incomes when the taxes go up? We have to ask them about what they think about an elected or an appointed school board. Those are the type things we have to ask county council candidates and the candidates running for county executive, and at the same time make them aware that they must get out and vote in June of 2018 so that we can bring a difference. There's 7 new members running for the county council alone in Prince George's County. They'll determine our future for the next 20 years.
Right.
And if we don't get out and vote just like you said, and if we don't ask the right questions, who's gonna lose in the end?
Your children. That's
right.
what people fail to realize. You know, the things that you don't do is going to hurt the future of your children.
That's right.
You may sit home and say, well, I don't feel like going today. But the experience I've had in Prince George County is I know communication is the key. Yes. And that's one thing, we don't have an adequate communication line. You have, just like I had 2 newspapers, the Black Voice and Prince George Press, and dealing with 2 magazines now. And I have 2 radio shows. Because I realize, and people have to realize, is they have to have communication if you're going to organize anything. I don't care if it's nonprofit or profit. You got to have the communication. If the people don't know, I was on the planning board 10 years, and the public hearings are ferocious. Yeah. I mean, they have 10, 20 people, and then they complain when something comes in that they don't like. You can't do that. You can't complain to your neighbor and other people say, and I hear some people say, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. I'm not going to waste my time.
Well, one of the things when you talk about communication, as you know, it's a new era. And everyone is not really looking at newspapers anymore. Washington Post is having a hard time just being able to get people to subscribe to them. So that with the new era, you got to think about a new form of communication. Everything is social media. Everything is television, like this broadcasting here, you know, and we got to figure out how to reach them. Do we send out the hearings through Twitter? Do you send out the hearings through Facebook? You know, that thing that captures their attention, because that is the era that this generation is being built into.
Well, my answer to that has been you have to get young people involved in your system. That's why on this program, if you notice, any young person that's getting involved in business or politics, I want them on the show. Because what we have to realize, the great doctor said with finances, said, you're not free unless you're economically free.
That's right.
Right now, how many African-American car dealers do you have in Prince George County? Just look. How many do you have? But how many of you all are over there have 3 and 4 cars in front of your house?
That's right.
You got to get into the economic system, and the young people has to be introduced to that.
Yes, they do.
You know, I push this. That's why I show with the newspaper, with magazine, with television, is that you're not free unless you're economically free. And people have to realize that. And what we have to do, we have to bring the young people into that era of entrepreneurship. And I think that those two things, entrepreneurship and the young people involved in the political system, is the greatest thing. That's why I think that the school board tragedy was a terrible thing. The young people are turning their backs on the school board because the young people that are on the school board are treated like dirt. In fact, they wanted to impeach the president of the school board. Now, people should have joined in and worked with those young people that's on the school board, that's putting their necks out, and just like Dr. Dula said, everybody said, well, we don't have the money. You have the money.
Yeah, you have.
Right now, you could ask any individual, where is the $50 million that the MGM is supposed to be putting into the education system? Do you realize that the largest part of your budget in Prince George County goes to education?
Yeah, about 60%.
But they have not had an order education. Imagine your household that's over 50% of the budget goes to item in your household, and you don't have an audit on it.
That's right. That's right.
And no one is, and I've mentioned this before, no one is pushing for, okay, they just got $28 million from the federal government. The politicians got that. That was for 3 years, $24 or $28 million. Okay, who's going to monitor the money? The situation that happened with the school board is that they brought in a new superintendent, and he brought all 6 of his buddies come in. They all make six-figure salary, $235,000 a year.
You know, and you're absolutely right, and that is going back to my position as Democratic Club president. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about the need for transparency. We know that the system is in need of improvement. We know that. And that's why we're out there pushing to get people engaged in the political process. But every corner of this county, everywhere I go, and we do have members from Charles and DC as well, everyone is saying the same thing. We're looking for honesty and we're looking for transparency, because the systems that you just mentioned, that's the transparent mechanism. If you don't have information that's flowing to the people, so the people can at least give you feedback, where then you're sitting on it, and it's not a holistic program to where everybody is involved. That's just like Ms. Patterson was saying. If the information flow does not disseminate, a lot of people, without it being disseminated, a lot of people won't know what's going on, so they don't know how to get involved.
Most
when we lost our news,
people don't know what's going on.
We lost the newspaper. That really took away one audience, the senior citizen audience. Now you're talking about the social media, and you're talking about the television and radio. Okay, that's pretty much everybody, but the millennia generation really gets involved with the social media aspect, tweet, and all the rest of that stuff they use. But it's got to be a three-pronged approach. You got to have the newspapers, which has been gone now for a couple of years, and I've raised that issue with our elected officials and said, we need to have print media. The television media, just like your show, is disseminating a lot of good information. That's another brand. But then on the other side is that social media that's going to get the millennial, and that's just not happened. I served as a state commissioner under Governor O'Malley for 7 years. And one of the things I consistently said at those state meetings where I was a commissioner for small business was the fact that we have got to find a way to concentrate the information into one centralized area that people can go into and don't have to look over here and look over here and look over here, because a small business doesn't have time to do that.
See what happens with that, they make it difficult for people purposely, and the ones that do that are your politicians. They make it, in other words, you got to have this, you have to the procedure, and that discourages
procedure, yeah.
participation.
It does.
You see, and the young people are not exposed to these things. They may be past you as far as the cell phone. And, well, what do they got? That one cell phone, $1,000 now
yeah,
coming up.
new one. It's
You know,
already
the new
outdated.
one coming up, and they upgrading it just like with the cell phone.
Right.
I guess I use about 6 of the things that the hundreds
That's me.
that apps that they have. You know what I mean? And I use about 6 or 7 of them. The rest of them, it's nothing.
But just like-
But what happened is the young people and the examples that we set, like I'm talking about, the school board,
Right.
is that people should be outraged that the young people on the school board are treated. In fact, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, they were denied information.
Yes. The
The
telephone
members of
number.
the school board, the young, were denied information about a project. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
that's not democracy. That's
Right.
autocracy, and over the last 9 months, we've seen a lot of autocratic behavior.
Yeah.
But you know, they say you alluded to it. All politics is local, so we have to take a look at what's happening at the national level, how it affects the state level, and how
Right,
it affects the
right.
local
That's
level.
right.
If you don't like what's happening at the national level, you can't condone it at the local level.
And you know what you're saying, I'm hearing, they want transparency. They want to be able to bring information in for the new millennium. But what I'm hearing is that we've got to all come together and be unified. We've got to bring unity. So those things that were working before, we can still bring that in and institute that with the millennium and still have the information flowing for everyone. You know, so when you think about unity, I'm thinking about, okay, for an example, we've been talking about, you know, Prince George's County and the different things with improvements and those that are in the political seat. I know Fairfax County is one of the richest counties in Virginia, just like Prince George's County is one of the richest counties in Maryland. So when you talk about, you know, sending information, what is it that they're doing, that they're getting their information out to everybody and information out to the schools? Maybe we can kind of listen in and adopt what they're doing and try to institute it into where we are.
Well, they are politically active.
Yes.
Very, very much
They're
so.
very politically active. They go, if a dog catcher, someone's running for dog catcher, they go out and vote. Whereas, a good example of when Obama was, you didn't have any problems getting people to come out and vote. But okay, for the dog catcher, because what happens is the level of politics that starts in your neighborhood, that guy may be your next president. Because of the fact that you sat at home when he ran for council, you sat at home when he ran for delegate, you sat at home when he ran for, and his policy, you didn't convey to him how you feel. You just went along with the program. And see, that is the thing that young people, they understand, they see this. So they get discouraged. I've had young people say, and older people, oh, well, they're going to do what they want to do anyway.
Right.
Ain't no sense me waiting in line. And then they don't understand, the system is set up to discourage you from voting. Every time you look, they got another rule that you got to have your grandmother's name on the form in order to vote. Or you got to been born on the south side or the north side. I mean, it sounds silly, but these are things and they change your voting place. Say, I've been voting down there at John's store there for the last 50 years. And now they got me somewhere up in the hills somewhere voting. That's done purposely.
Yeah.
You know, we have to really, really be conscious because, you know, the census is done every 10 years. And then all too often redistricting takes place. Just like you said, I was in one district for the 20 years that I've lived in this county.
Yeah.
And when I got ready to run for office after 10 years, and I had ran previously, all of a sudden I was redistricted out of the district.
Yeah, right.
And
no one called you and
no
told
one
you
called or
anything,
mentioned
right?
it to me. I had people show up and said, I went to vote for you, but you weren't on my ballot. And I said, what do you mean? And then I found out too that I had been redistricted out of the district.
Right.
And so it's those type of political practices that take place that I personally consider are below the belt. And I think the people do need to be engaged with what's going on so that we can make sure that we're not being taken advantage of. This is a democracy, Mr. Brown, and I tell you, in a democracy, the people rule. And so we've got to get back to that philosophy and to the law, the Constitution of the United States, that says we the people rule. And if we don't like it, we can change our government. But we can't let our government change us by doing things that we're not aware of. We all need to be involved, as Ms. Patterson was saying.
Getting back to, tell us a little more about the things that you're doing as far as abusive behavior.
Greatly. I want to thank you, Mr. Brown, for having me here on your show. Yes, Sources of Power is an organization that provides resources such as the things that we're talking about so that the community can get involved. And the main thing that we're hearing every day is domestic violence. One of the things that I have been working diligently with doing is putting events on and making awareness for others to be able to understand that you can come out of your situation. And now things have escalated where the silence is being broken, and I applaud that very much so, where we have the police and different securities involved to be able to help us. So as Dr. Dula was saying, with the nonprofit, I'm aiding to getting involved with providing a 2019 Men's Domestic Violence Conference. We're sitting here talking about the political arena, but where are our men? We have men in authority who are doing great things, who are taking care of their homes and their wives. But the people who are out in the community, a lot of them are going through domestic violence. They're going through abuse. They're going through physical abuse. They're going through mental and financial. So when you talk about them listening and hearing, if you have those type of situations that are going on in your home, it's very hard to hear about what you can do better in your community. So that's why I'm bringing this awareness, and we're looking to have that event again in 2019. And what I've done is I've called all those that are in positions, such as Dr. Dula, such as Muse, and apostles, bishops, all of those in the clergy who have churches and stuff, so that they can be educated to know what to do, that when people come to them and say, look, I'm in an abusive situation, what can I do? That they actually know what to do, know the resources to be able to go to. So that's what it is that I'm doing and that I'm promoting. And like Dr. Dula said, we need to get the nonprofits together. So with this event, it's not just an event that we're going to have for one day. This is something that's going to go on for years and year after year and long term. And when we come, we're going to be active with it. I believe that a lot of times the events that are put together, we don't take the action to follow up. So what I've asked is that the reason why the longevity for 2019 is because we want to move towards those knowing who the planning committee is, getting involved in the community, having different groups and different resources of education leading up to that time, so that we can get the churches to be able to take their community buses and go down to the community center and get those who have abuse and alcohol addictions, males, and have them come to this event so they can understand what is the issue. So those that have been abused, male abuse, they can open up and break the silence with other men that are there being abused, and those that are abusers can get to the root of the tragedies or different things that have happened in their childhood that say it's okay to abuse. So that's what my mission is.
Programs like that are outstanding, but from my experience, it's a low priority with in the political system. In the political system, they are the ones that either support the abusive situation that's going on by the judges and the police behavior.
And I agree with you. And you know, one of the things that I mentioned.
That's why you have to be careful who you put in office.
Yes.
Who's the judges, who's in charge, because of the fact that the environment that it came from. See, and see that's one of the keys which they don't mention. For instance, like a judge or a policeman, what kind of training does he have as far as abusive relation? Very little.
Well, that's the thing. I think this era, the awareness is being able to bring all of that out. And when you talk about churches, they don't know what to do, because a lot of times those that are in the position as pastors or ministers or whatever, they're the ones that are abusing in their own home. So it's silent. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to deal with it. But this is the time to be able to deal with that we all have to come together collectively and make a change.
Well, actually, you mentioned the churches. One of the largest financial institutions, I won't mention the faith, but most of us are aware of it, have abusive relationships.
Yes, they do.
And which is swept under the table because of the political system. I need not go any further because that's in the news all the time of the churches having an abusive relationship. And if you have it in the church, you know, how that makes it difficult for a young person to understand.
And trust. You're right. Absolutely right.
And you mentioned a very good point. You mentioned the word training. I know last night you had a meeting, and one of the issues that came up was to create a training program.
That's right.
And you might want to tell them a little bit more.
Yeah, so we want to create a training program as we move towards the planning committee, as we move towards the events of awareness. Everyone said, you know, why don't we need the training. We need to understand what it is that we need to do. And I think that is very, very valid, because if you're going to support, it's more to it than just saying, I understand what's going on because I experienced it with my mother or with my father.
Yeah.
You know, you got to know what it is to do, how to engage that person to be able to get the help that they need.
And so you have to have it in the political system too, because see, the political system is just as guilty, because they make it, well, we just had an example where the police went through their regular routine, and the young man went out and did the same thing a week later. You know what I mean? And the fact that the training of the police is generally not on the level it should be. They should be passing it.
Yes.
But they're more authoritative. They emphasize authority more so than being peaceful, accepted in the neighborhood as a part of the neighborhood.
Right.
See, the average policeman, boy, people that fear, even senior citizens, fear the police. You see me? So the young people, that fear is passed on to them. And see, the training that I'm speaking about is a people training. You know, the fact that they don't understand, no one is going to react the same way to the same situation.
That's right.
But anyway, I'm glad you're here, and what we want to do is get the political system involved and the entrepreneurs involved in contributing to projects that you're talking about. The abusive project, it's growing. And I want to thank you for being here, and hey, we got to keep going on this, because it's a long solution.
Yes.
Because you're dealing with emotions.
That's right.
Hey, this has been Ed Brown. See you next time.